Jack was cleaning the engine room of his small ship, parked at Dock 9 on a busy space station. He didn't talk much to anyone, just did his job, got paid, and kept to himself. He liked it that way. Humans weren't too common out here, but no one really cared unless you caused trouble. Jack didn't cause trouble. As he packed his tools, he heard small footsteps behind him. He turned slowly, expecting a technician or a worker. Instead, he saw a child, maybe 6 or 7 years old, but not human. The child had greenish skin, big purple eyes, and strange patterns on its cheeks that glowed slightly. It looked up at Jack with a curious face. "Are you single?" the child asked without blinking. Jack froze. "What?" he said, almost laughing. "Are you single?" The child asked again. "Because I think you're perfect for my mom." Jack blinked twice, trying to understand if this was some kind of joke. "Where are your parents, kid?" he asked, looking around. The child stepped closer. "My mom is not here, not yet," Jack frowned. "Look, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but..." Suddenly, a loud voice echoed from the station speakers. "Security alert. Zone 9 possible stowaway reported." Jack looked down at the child again. The child's eyes were wide with fear now. "They're looking for me," the child whispered. "Please help me, human." Jack could have walked away. He could have ignored it. But something in the child's voice, something desperate, made him stop. "Why should I help you?" he asked. "Because my mom will die if you don't," the child said, voice shaking. That made Jack pause. The child didn't look like a liar. And if someone was chasing a kid on a peaceful station, that wasn't right. "Come on, Jack," said, grabbing his toolkit. "Stay behind me." They moved through the hallway quickly. Jack led the child toward a maintenance tunnel he used to avoid crowds. As they walked, Jack asked, "What's your name, kid?" "Yulo," the child said. "My name is Yulo." Jack nodded. "Okay, Yulo, I'm Jack, and I still don't understand what's going on." They reached his ship, and Jack let the child in. Locking the door behind them, Yulo sat quietly in the corner, breathing fast. Jack walked over and gave him some water. "You want to tell me why people are after you?" Jack asked. "They don't want my mom to find someone," Yulo said. "They want her to be alone." "What does that mean?" "In my world, if a female leader doesn't find a bondmate, she loses her status." Jack raised an eyebrow. "So you're matchmaking to save your mom's job?" Yulo shook his head. "No, to save her life." Before Jack could ask more, the ship's alert system beeped. 3 armed figures in dark armor were scanning ships docked nearby. Jack checked the monitor. None of them looked friendly. "They're here," Yulo said, hiding behind the seat. "Great," Jack muttered. "Just what I needed today." He had a choice. He could hand the child over, pretend he didn't know anything, or... "Strap in," Jack said, starting the engine. "We're getting out of here." The ship lifted off as security bots tried to block the exit. Jack flew low, avoiding scans, weaving through cargo lanes. The station exit gate appeared ahead. But a voice called over the comms, "Unauthorized launch detected. Prepare for inspection." Jack smiled a little. "Not today," he said, hitting a button under his seat. A burst of engine smoke and signal noise blocked their trail. Within seconds, they were out of the station and into deep space. Jack leaned back, catching his breath. Yulo peeked out from his seat, eyes wide with relief. "You really helped me," Yulo said. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Jack replied. "I just broke at least 5 space laws for you." There was a pause, then Yulo said, "So, will you still meet my mom?" Jack sighed. This is going to be a long ride. But deep down, for the first time in years, he didn't feel so alone. The stars outside Jack's window moved slowly as the ship drifted through quiet space. It had been hours since they escaped. The station, Yulo, the small alien child, was now asleep in the co-pilot's seat, curled up with a blanket too big for him. Jack sat in silence, staring at the control panel. What had he done? He didn't even know this kid, but somehow, he had risked everything to save him. Jack let out a long breath. His quiet life was over now. Suddenly Yulo stirred and opened his eyes. "You didn't leave me," the child said softly. Jack glanced at him. "Didn't get the chance," Yulo smiled. "Most people run when they hear who my mom is." Jack leaned back in his chair. "You keep talking about your mom, like she's some kind of queen." "She's more than that," Yulo said. "She's a protector, a warrior, and a leader of our world." Jack raised an eyebrow. "And she needs a boyfriend?" Yulo nodded, serious. "She needs someone kind, someone strong, someone human." Jack laughed under his breath. "Why human?" "Because your kind fights even when you're weak," Yulo replied. "You love without needing to be told." Jack didn't know what to say to that. He had never thought of humans like that before. "We're also stubborn and messy," Jack muttered. Yulo tilted his head. "That's okay, so is my mom." Just then, the ship's scanner beeped. Jack looked at the screen. 3 ships were following them fast, armed and closing in. "Bounty hunters," Jack said, his voice low. Yulo's face went pale. "I thought we were safe," Yulo whispered. "They must have tracked your signal." Jack replied, "We need to hide." He activated stealth mode, cutting lights and heat signals. The ship became a ghost in space, floating silently between asteroid fields. Inside the dark cockpit, Yulo whispered, "I didn't mean to get you into danger." Jack didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Why me, kid? Out of all the people in the galaxy, why did you choose me?" Yulo looked down. "I saw you once." "When?" 3 months ago, on Station Orion 4, Yulo replied. "You stopped a drunk alien from hitting an old cleaner." Jack blinked, remembering the moment faintly. "You didn't even know her," Yulo continued. "But you helped anyway, and then you walked away like it was nothing." Jack shook his head. "You chose me because of that?" Yulo nodded. "That's when I knew you had a good heart." Before Jack could respond, the ship rocked slightly. A small asteroid hit their hull, but didn't break it. The enemy ships turned away, losing their signal. They were safe for now. Jack restarted the power slowly, lighting up the controls. "All right," he said. "Where are we going?" "To my mother," Yulo said with a hopeful smile. "I told her I'd bring someone back. Someone special." Jack laughed a little. "So you promised your mom a husband before even asking him?" "I hoped," Yulo said. "I didn't promise." Jack looked at the star map. Yulo showed him the coordinates of a hidden planet, deep inside a protected zone. Jack knew the area. It was heavily restricted and monitored by galactic law. Going there wasn't going to be easy. "Great," Jack muttered. "Now we're heading into royal space." As they traveled, Jack noticed something. The closer they got to the planet, the more silence filled the ship. Yulo looked nervous now, quiet, thoughtful. "What's wrong?" Jack asked. "There's something I didn't tell you," Yulo said. "If you meet my mom, there's a ritual." Jack narrowed his eyes. "What kind of ritual?" "To test if your soul is strong enough," Yulo replied. "It's how our people choose mates." Jack groaned. "Why do I feel like this is getting worse by the minute?" "It's not painful," Yulo said quickly. "Just revealing." Jack stared out at the stars. He had no idea what he was flying into, but deep inside, part of him wanted to know what kind of woman raised a kid like Yulo. Hours passed and finally, a small blue planet came into view. It was surrounded by glowing satellites and ancient defense towers. As they approached, a voice came through the comms. "Unregistered human vessel. Identify yourself." Jack pressed the button. "Name's Jack. I'm here on request." There was a pause. Then the voice changed. "Bring the child," the voice said, "and prepare to meet the matriarch." Yulo sat up, beaming with joy. "She's waiting," he whispered. Jack wasn't sure if he was ready, but there was no turning back now. The planet below glowed like a blue fire in the darkness. Its clouds shimmered with soft silver, like a dream wrapped in light. Jack had seen many planets, but this one felt different. It felt like it was watching him. As the ship entered the atmosphere, everything went quiet. No turbulence, no alarms, just a gentle pull, like the planet itself was guiding them. Yulo leaned toward the window, eyes sparkling. "We're home," he whispered. They landed in a forest clearing, surrounded by giant white trees that hummed softly. Jack stepped out first, his boots crunching on glowing moss. He looked around, alert, then a shadow moved between the trees. Dozens of tall figures in silver armor appeared, each one carrying a long staff and wearing masks. They didn't speak. One of them stepped forward and pointed to Jack. "Come," the voice said, calm but strong. Yulo tugged Jack's hand. "Don't worry, they're guards. They'll take us to her." Jack didn't feel comforted, but he followed. They walked for several minutes through the glowing forest. The air was warm, filled with sweet smells and faint music. It didn't feel like a place of war or politics. It felt like a forgotten paradise. Finally, the trees opened to reveal a great structure, part temple, part fortress. It was carved into a mountain, with waterfalls falling over its sides. Jack stared in awe. He had never seen anything so beautiful and powerful at the same time. Inside the hall, everything was quiet. The walls were covered in strange writing that moved like waves. Yulo stepped forward with pride. "Mother," he called, his voice echoing. A figure stepped out from the shadows. She was tall, taller than Jack. Her skin shimmered like polished stone. Her eyes were deep gold, sharp yet gentle. She wore a robe of light armor, and every step she took was full of grace. Jack didn't need to ask, he knew this was her. This was the woman Yulo had crossed galaxies for. She looked at Jack, not with anger, not with surprise, but with a long, thoughtful silence. Then she spoke, her voice calm and powerful. "So, you're the human my son stole?" Jack raised an eyebrow. "I wasn't exactly kidnapped." Yulo smiled. "He helped me on his own." The woman stepped closer, her eyes scanning Jack. "You didn't run," she said, "even when you had the chance." Jack nodded. "Didn't seem right to leave a kid alone." "And now you are here," she said. "At the heart of my people, where no human has stood before." Jack shrugged. "Yeah, well, I've had weirder Mondays." She almost smiled, just a little. Then she knelt beside Yulo and held his face gently. "You've done something dangerous, my son," she whispered, "but also something brave." Yulo leaned into her. "I found someone who sees us." She stood up and turned to Jack. "My name is Serana, matriarch of the Ilari." Jack gave a small nod. "Jack Dawson, mechanic, ex-soldier. Bad at dancing." A strange silence followed. Then Serana said, "You joke, but the stars do not." Jack blinked. "Okay, what does that mean?" Serana gestured toward a side chamber. "If you wish to continue," she said, "you must enter the Hall of Reflection." Jack frowned. "What's that? Some kind of test?" "It's not for me," she said. "It's for you." Yulo grabbed Jack's sleeve. "It's okay. I went through it too when I turned 6. "That doesn't make me feel better," Jack muttered. But he followed. Inside the hall, the air shifted. The walls were mirrors, not glass, but reflections of his thoughts. Every step he took showed a memory. His childhood, the war, the people he lost, the pain he buried. He saw himself walking away from friends, from love, from hope, running from his past, running from connection. Then he saw Yulo smiling at him, and Serana standing tall in fire and shadow, unafraid. Jack walked deeper, until the mirrors vanished. He stood in the middle of the chamber, silent. Then a soft voice echoed in his mind, "Do you fear being chosen, or do you fear being needed?" Jack didn't answer, but his heart did. When he walked out, Serana was waiting. Her expression had changed, softer now, curious. "You faced it," she said. Jack nodded, his voice low. "I'm not perfect, but I'm not running either." Serana looked into his eyes for a long moment. Then she said, "I didn't ask my child to find someone, but I won't turn away someone who walks toward fire instead of away from it." Yulo cheered, hugging both of them at once. Jack stood there, awkward but smiling. Maybe this wasn't about marriage or saving a kingdom. Maybe it was about being seen and choosing not to be alone anymore. Jack woke up to the sound of strange music. It wasn't loud, but it felt like it was inside his bones, soft, deep tones that moved like waves. He sat up. In the smooth bed made of living crystal, rubbing his eyes, the room glowed with soft blue light. Walls shifted slowly like breathing stone. He wasn't on a space station anymore. He was deep inside a living mountain on an alien world. Jack stretched his arms and muttered, "Yep, still not a dream." As he stepped outside, he found Serana waiting. She stood near a garden filled with floating flowers that followed her like pets. Yulo was playing nearby with other alien children. Laughing for a moment, it looked like peace. But Jack knew better. He walked to Serana, and before he could speak, she said, "Today, the trials begin." Jack blinked. Trials? Like more mirror rooms and mind games? Serana shook her head. No, something harder. What's harder than facing your fears? Understanding someone else's, she replied. She led Jack through narrow halls until they reached a round chamber with glowing stones. 10 figures sat in a circle, wise elders of the Ilari. They didn't smile. They didn't speak. They just watched. One of them finally said, "If he wishes to bond with the matriarch, he must prove 3 things." Jack crossed his arms. "All right, hit me with it." "First," the elder said, "he must learn our ways. Second, he must feel our burdens. Third, he must raise a child, not by blood, but by spirit." Jack's eyebrows shot up. "Hold on, I'm not trying to adopt an alien army. It's not permanent." Serana explained, "But it is real." So the trials began. Day 1, learning the ways. Jack was taken to a giant dome filled with holograms. Language, history, traditions. It felt like school and a memory storm combined. He learned how Ilari speak through light patterns as much as sound. He studied ancient wars where Serana had once fought. He saw images of her bleeding in battle, protecting children who weren't hers. And he saw something else, a vote from the council, a warning. If she failed to find a life mate soon, they would take her title, and her enemies would take her life. Jack rubbed his face, feeling heavy. This wasn't just romance. This was survival. Day 2, feeling their burdens, they sent Jack to the mines. Ilari mines weren't for metal. They were for memories. Deep crystals grew inside the mountain, holding the pain of generations. When Jack touched one, he saw visions, a mother losing her son in war, a child watching his village burn, a warrior burying her heart after a failed peace. Jack fell to his knees, breath stolen. He had seen pain before, but not like this. This pain had music, shape, weight, and now it lived in him too. That night, he sat alone. Serana came to him, not as a queen, but as a woman tired of carrying a world. "You still wish to stay?" she asked softly. Jack looked at her, eyes dark but steady. "I didn't come this far to quit." Day 3, raising a spirit. Jack was assigned a young Ilari orphan, a quiet boy named Liar. Liar didn't speak, didn't smile. He just watched Jack with big blue eyes. They ate together in silence. They built puzzles from floating stones. They sat under starlight without words. On the 3rd night, Liar took Jack's hand and softly, finally whispered, "You don't smell like fear." Jack chuckled. "Thanks, I think." It was enough. The ceremony. By the end of the 3rd day, the council gathered again. Serana stood beside Jack, both wearing robes of dust blue light. Yulo was in the front row, fidgeting, proud. A glowing circle formed beneath them. "If you are willing to bond," the elder said, "speak your truth." Jack stepped forward, voice calm. "I didn't come here to be anyone's answer. I came because a child believed in me before. I believed in myself. I stayed because I saw a woman worth fighting for. I'm not perfect, but I'm not running anymore." Gasps echoed in the room. His words weren't ceremonial. They were real. Then Serana spoke, her voice soft but sharp. "I didn't ask to be saved, but I choose a man who walked through our pain and called it his own. I choose him, not for tradition, but because even in silence, he heard us." The circle lit up with golden light. Jack felt something click inside him. Not magic, not power, but peace then. Just as the room filled with cheers, the light shattered. An alarm screamed across the temple. A guard burst in. The outer gate has fallen. An enemy force has breached the sky. Jack turned to Serana, but her eyes were already cold. They've come to end what my son tried to save. Asterisk smoke rose from the edge of the sky like a crack in heaven, the warning. Sirens hadn't stopped since the gates fell. The temple, once filled with light and hope, was now full of shouting voices and armored guards. Jack stood by Serana's side, his body tense. Yulo clung to his cloak, eyes wide. No one had expected an attack, not during the bonding ceremony, especially not from the inside. They timed it, Serana whispered, her eyes locked on the horizon. They waited until you were chosen. Jack clenched his jaw. So this was never about me being a human. Serana looked at him. No. It's about what our union threatens, outside. Black ships landed like falling knives. Enemies from her own council. Those who wanted power without peace. They didn't want Serana to lead, and they certainly didn't want a human at her side. A bond in question as the temple shook from distant blasts. A senior elder stepped forward. His robes were cut and his face bruised. He looked at Serana and said, "The council is divided. Half believe your bond is real. The others call it manipulation." "They think I used your son," Jack said, voice flat. "They think I chose weakness." Serana added, "A soft heart in a human body. They're wrong." Jack replied. The elder lowered his head. "Then prove it again." Jack raised an eyebrow. "How many times do I have to jump through alien hoops?" "This one," the elder said, "is not a hoop. It is the courtship of fire. The trial of fire and spirit. That night, under a blood-orange sky, a circle was drawn on the plains. Guards, elders, warriors, and even enemies gathered in. Silence in the center. Jack and Serana stood alone. The fire trial wasn't physical. It was emotional, psychic, and ancient. Two souls, joined in pain and promise, must reveal themselves fully. No masks, no pride, no lies, if your hearts are bound, the elder said, you will pass together. If not, you will burn apart. The flames around them rose, dancing in colors not found on earth: blue, violet, silver. Jack felt heat, not on his skin, but inside his mind. Memories flashed: war, loss, childhood, loneliness, laughter, Yulo's smile. Then Serana's voice echoed inside him. "Show me your true fear." He tried to resist, but the fire pulled it out. A memory earth, years ago. His squad wiped out, him standing alone in a crater, blaming himself. He didn't run because he was brave. He ran because he didn't believe. He deserved to be saved. Now Serana stood in his mind. She didn't judge. She simply reached out and held the memory like it was fragile. Then her memory came, a battle on her home moon, her sister dying in her arms, her people turning cold, expecting her to become queen while her heart broke. She hadn't chosen power. She had accepted it because no one else would in the fire. They stood eye to eye, no crown, no armor, just wounds that matched. And when the flames faded, they were still standing, hand in hand, the sabotage before cheers could rise. A scream broke the silence. One of the ships exploded in the distance. Then another and another, but they weren't being destroyed. They were activating. The traitors set bombs under the temple, shouted a guard. They're going to bring the mountain down. Serana turned to Jack. Take Yulo and go. I'll stay and protect the core. Jack shook his head. No. Way. This isn't your fight, she said. I just passed a fire test to be your partner. Jack snapped. So yeah, it kind of is. Together. They rushed back into the heart of the temple. Yulo ran beside them, silent but focused. He wasn't just a child anymore. He was their bond, their reason, their future. In the control chamber, crystal panels blinked red. A hologram showed 6. Fusion nodes, 5 blinking fast, 1 already blown. They rigged the energy veins, Serana said. Jack scanned the system. If we cut all at once, the temple crashes. But if we reverse the flow, It'll burn the saboteurs before they trigger the last blast, Serana finished. They shared a look, one of trust, urgency, and fire. Then they moved, fingers dancing across strange consoles like music. Jack had never used alien tech before. But Serana guided him without words. Together, they were fluent. As the final node blinked, Serana whispered, "Now." Jack slammed the sequence. The energy surged backward like a wave. Outside, enemy ships melted in mid-air. The saboteurs vanished in white-blue bursts. Silence returned, not the silence of fear, but of victory. Aftermath that night, under a sky full of stars and no smoke. Jack sat beside Serana. Yulo leaned on his arm, sleepy but smiling. "You didn't just pass a courtship," Serana said. "You passed our greatest test," Jack smirked. "So, does this make me a prince or something?" Serana laughed, soft and real. "No, it makes you mine." The sun rose over the crystal peaks, painting the sky in gold and rose. Alari children chased glowing birds. Warriors bowed to Serana, and the temple breathed in peace. Jack stood on a balcony overlooking it all, one arm around Yulo, who giggled at the view. After all they had faced, fire trials, sabotage, war, it felt like the storm had finally passed. But peace is a strange thing. It is often the calm just before something breaks. That morning, the council gathered in full robes, all 12 elders in perfect formation, their faces serious, unreadable. Jack walked in beside Serana, Yulo following closely. Today, they would seal the bond officially before the people. A celebration, a new future, but Jack's instincts ticked like a quiet alarm. Too quiet, too still. Even the air tasted different. A familiar stranger, one of the elders, stepped forward. Elder Tivan, tall, quiet, always watching but rarely speaking. He bowed slightly and said, "Before the bond is completed, there is one final truth." Serana raised an eyebrow. "Another trial?" "No," Tivan replied. "A revelation." Then he turned to Jack. "You said you were a mechanic, a soldier, a man with no army." Jack nodded slowly. "That's true." Tivan narrowed his eyes. "Then why did the Human Alliance place a tracker on your ship?" Gasps echoed across the hall. Jack blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" Tivan snapped his fingers, and a hologram appeared. Jack's ship, blinking with a soft red dot, a signal beacon, hidden deep in the engine. It had been sending coordinates for days. Serana's eyes locked on Jack. Not with anger, but with fear. "Did you know about this?" she asked quietly. Jack stepped back, shaking his head. "No, I swear, I didn't install that." Tivan's voice grew sharp. "The human empire is known for infiltration. Perhaps this was the plan all along, to win her trust, gain our codes, and strike when we're weak." Jack's fists clenched. "That's not who I am," he growled. "You know that." But the seed of doubt had been planted. Yulo tugged Jack's hand. "You wouldn't lie to us, right?" Jack kneeled, eye to eye with the child. "I didn't lie," he said softly. "But someone wants it to look like I did." Serana stared at the beacon, her jaw tight. Then she turned to Tivan. "Who installed it?" Tivan didn't answer. Jack, "Step forward, let me find out. Give me one day, just one. If I can't prove who planted it, I'll leave." The elders whispered among themselves. Finally Serana nodded. "One day, Jack," she said. "Then we'll know whether to call you husband or spy." The hidden hand. Jack stormed back to his ship, Yulo trailing behind. They scanned every inch of the engine core until they found it, a small flat black disc hidden behind a fuel vent. It was too advanced for him to detect before, and it wasn't human tech. It was Alari made. Jack's eyes darkened. Someone from this world planted it. But why? Yulo asked. "To break us apart," Jack replied. "And they're almost winning." They traced the energy signature, following it to the eastern ridge. There, hidden under the roots of a stone tree, was a private communication crystal, used only by High Council members. Jack sent the data to Serana silently. No words, just proof. The message was clear. This betrayal was internal, not human. The real enemy revealed back at the council. Serana stood tall, holding the data crystalline. Her palm, she addressed the elders, her voice like steel. Someone among us tried to frame my bondmate, someone who fears what unity could bring. Then she looked directly at Elder Tivan. This tech came from your house. Gasps again, sharper this time. Tivan stepped back. I did what? I had to, he snapped. Humans are not our future. They're loud, emotional, dangerous. Serana's eyes narrowed. Or maybe you just wanted power. Maybe you feared that a human could love what you never dared to. Tivan drew a small blade, pulsing with energy. You think I'll let you ruin our purity with this outsider? Before he could strike, Jack stepped forward. I'm not here to take anything, he said. I'm here because your child believed in peace. Tivan lunged, but was stopped, not by Jack, by Yulo, who stood between them, hands out, eyes glowing with light. No more fighting, the child said. Voice calm. We need love, not control. The blade fell from Tivan's hand, and so did his power, what was broken. Begins to Tivan was removed from the council, his crimes exposed, the beacon was destroyed. And Jack, once again, stood in front of the council, not as a suspect, but as proof. Proof that even when lies try to tear us apart, truth finds a way back. Serana reached for his hand. And this time, no one doubted. No trial, no ritual, no flame, just trust. Yulo laughed, spinning between them. You're definitely my dad now, he said proudly. Jack smiled, a little unsure but not unhappy. Guess that makes me family, asterisk. The stars above the Alari skies were brighter that night. Not because of science or orbit, but because for the first time in generations, there was peace, real peace, not made with weapons, but with choice. Jack stood at the edge of the crystal balcony, his eyes scanning the horizon. He wasn't wearing armor, not even his old jacket, just a simple robe gifted by Yulo, colored in deep blue, the color of chosen family. Behind him, Serana approached. Silently, you're thinking again, she said softly. Jack smiled without turning. I'm human, we do that a lot. She joined him at the edge, both looking out at the starlit forest below. Children were playing under floating lanterns, their laughter dancing through the air. Yulo was among them, climbing too high but laughing too loud to stop. I never imagined this, Serana whispered, not with a human. Neither did I, Jack replied. But I stopped imagining a future a long time ago. The Alliance the following day, Jack stood before a crowd of thousands Alari citizens, warriors, elders, and even guests from other systems. Yulo stood between Jack and Serana, proudly holding both their hands. A massive screen behind them showed the words in 3 languages, Alari, Galactic Common, and Earth English. An elder stepped forward, reading the new decree aloud. By bond, by fire and by peace, we welcome Earth into the circle of stars. The first human to walk the Alari path shall not walk alone. Applause rose, not loud like human cheering, but steady like thunder under calm rain. It was the sound of old hearts opening. Then Serana turned to Jack in front of everyone. No crown waits for you, she said. No throne. But if you wish it, there is a home. Jack took her hand slowly, then looked at Yulo. You're sure this is what you want? He asked the child. Yulo smiled. You make her laugh, and you fix things when they break. That's what a real father does. Jack knelt and hugged him. Then I guess I'm not leaving. One last test just as the celebration reached its peak. A message came through the old beacon systems. A human envoy ship had arrived at the edge of the Alari system. They had come for Jack, and they weren't alone. Jack was summoned to speak with the human commander, General Rourke, a man Jack had once served under. The message was cold, clipped, military. You left without report, the general said. You've involved yourself in a political species merge. Return immediately, or Earth will not support this treaty. Jack stared at the message, then looked around at the people who had trusted him. At Serana, who had risked her crown. At Yulo, who had trusted him when no one else would. Then he stood tall and pressed the reply button. This is Jack Dawson, he said clearly. I didn't come to make deals. I came to protect a child.